Hi friends. Today I wanted to talk about a non-BAND-MAID song. We all have our history, our background. Before BAND-MAID appeared in this world, we all listened to something, right? And of course, there's a long history of great music in the world. Sometimes I would like to talk about music which I considered great, which was really my favorite music over the years. So one of the singers, bands, musicians which I would like to talk about, I was very much into prog music before. King Crimson and Graaf Generator. So they are the two greatest prog bands in my estimation. And Robert Fripp is no doubt a legend. Peter Hammill, who was a vocalist, who is still a vocalist, and he still produces some great music, although they both are very old. Peter Hammill is not as well known, although they were close friends and they collaborated a lot with Robert Fripp. So Robert Fripp was playing guitar on some Graaf Generator albums and on some solo albums by Peter Hammill. And Peter Hammill was singing on Robert Fripp's solo album, the first solo album, Exposure. So Peter Hammill is the greatest singer in my understanding. That's, by the way, he's Peter Hammill, if you don't know who he is. It's funny that this album actually, it's his solo album from 75, but in reality, it's actually Graaf Generator, because all Graaf Generator musicians are there. I have no clue why they decided that it will be Peter Hammill's solo album. Probably because the style was different. I don't see any great differences in style, to be honest, but at the time it seemed like really revolutionary, because even this album is proclaimed like the first punk rock music. Punk rock, imagine. Sid Vicious was citing Peter Hammill as his main influence. He said that this album, Nadir's Big Chance, was what actually prompted him, Sid Vicious, to start doing the music which led to Sex Pistols. So you know that story probably. Sid Vicious was sitting somewhere on a street in London or wherever it was, and he had a T-shirt which had it written with a ball pen. It had Pink Floyd over there, and then with a ball pen it was written on top, "I hate." So it was, "I hate Pink Floyd." And I think somebody asked Roger Waters, like, what does he think about Sid Vicious making that statement? He said, well, I'm sort of, it looks to me like confirmation that we were quite a famous band, at least, because it would be very strange if he would say, I hate Yes, or I hate King Crimson. Like, that would not create so much, fuzz about that. So, I hate Pink Floyd was a statement. And on the other side, Sid Vicious said that Peter Hammill was his main influence. So, I'm going to speak today about Peter Hammill a little bit, as the greatest vocalist, actually, in my estimation. Of course, there's a lot of great vocalists like Robert Fripp or Freddie Mercury. But for some strange reason, I never listened to... Well, I know all Queen songs, no doubt. I listened to all Queen, but it never was like really my music. They're too, I don't know, too soft, too poppy, whatever. Of course, Freddie Mercury is just magical. Yeah, his voice is just great. But just not my style. Robert Fripp, of course, is also amazing vocalist, amazing. But for some strange reason, Led Zeppelin, like, it was really... I listened to them a lot in like 80s, well, in 90s, yeah, 80s, 90s. But then gradually other music appeared and I sort of drifted away from Led Zeppelin. I listen to them from time to time still, but also not my cup of tea, let's say. So what is my cup of tea as a vocalist, yeah, is Peter Hammill. So it's by way of advertisement, actually. So I think he was undeservedly forgotten as a great musician. Peter Hammill and the Graaf Generator, I believe that they really have a huge influence on music. King Crimson is still remembered, no doubt, because King Crimson is actually not a band, it's like a school of music. King Crimson, Robert Fripp, had set this goal of like creating a new style. You know, King Crimson is actually like a lot of bands, a lot of musicians. I don't know, like 50 people, you know, who participated in King Crimson, or side projects at one point or another. And the Graaf Generator is more like a narrow phenomenon. They're more like just a band. Whatever. So, by the way, this song, 2 or 3 Spectres, I sincerely recommend it to you, but I'm not going to speak about them today. What I'm going to speak about is Robert Fripp, Exposure, and what Peter Hammill did there. The song which I wanted to listen with you today is called Disengage. The story behind this Exposure album by Robert Fripp is actually quite fascinating. He first employed other singer there. So the main singer had to be Daryl Hall. Daryl Hall. So I never sort of heard about him. I don't know if he's famous or not. Definitely it's a different style of music which I usually listen to. Probably more like, I don't know, soft, meditative, whatever. I don't even know. He's a great singer, no doubt. And where he sings there on Exposure is You Burn Me Up a Cigarette and North Star. North Star is really amazing song. And yeah, actually I listened to the version of Exposure where Daryl Hall was singing originally on all songs, and it sounds pretty interesting. But the fact that it all went wrong was actually a boon rather than a curse, as it turned out, because to invite Peter Hammill to sing on this album was really, really great idea. And so Daryl Hall was denied participation in most of the songs on Exposure because the label, his label, thought that it runs counter to his style or whatever. So how do they formulate it? Daryl Hall was to sing on most of the tracks. Instead of appearing on some 17 minutes of the album, was only to sing on 2 of the tracks. And so Robert Fripp had to rework about half of the album. So yeah, that Exposure was a very interesting experiment by Robert Fripp. So, okay. So Fripp was, really searching frantically for other vocalists to replace Daryl Hall. And he found, he thought of his friends, obviously, and Peter Hammill was his friend, like the first vocalist which probably came to his mind. And that's a very interesting description here. Like, Hammill flew into New York, came into the studio. dressed in a rather svelte and smooth fashion, took off his nice clothes and got into a smelly dressing gown, poured himself liberal dose from the bottle of cognac, here we remember Misa, he'd brought with him, and went in there and started delivering the goods. So that description of Peter Hammill delivering the goods. So I think it's about time that we actually listen to that song, and you can appreciate for yourself why I think Peter Hammill was the greatest vocalist really in the... Well, he could be a metal vocalist actually, and that's what I like about him, that his vocal is really metal, you know, although it's of course it's like prog rock, yeah, so technically nobody calls Graaf Generator metal, but just listen to it. It starts very softly. It's very interesting. But Robert Fripp actually, what he did later was that Frippertronics, it is called, yeah, where he's using, what is he doing? I think it's probably a guitar. I think it's a guitar what he's doing. So it's very meditative. He has this whole album of these tunes, which I don't know how can anyone listen to, but as they comment here, Disengage ends rather abruptly. So ends rather abruptly. So it's really like a metal song, guys. Really? I don't know. Well, yeah, everybody says, oh, Robert Fripp, yeah, King Crimson, it's a prog rock. Guys, that is metal. That is pure metal. And Peter Hammill is just incredible here as a metal singer. So, by the way, the song is about, what was the lyrics of, there is a lyrics over there. As they say, it's, the piece contains a recording of Fripp interviewing his mother about his toilet training. So it was very funny occasion for Robert Fripp to write a song. And the text is like, it's about child, right? Mrs. Marion is strict with her servant. Behind locked doors over coffee, they speak. They speak to my parents, my sister, my parents, and I'm trying hard not to shriek. So that impressions of a child, you know, with a strict. I don't know who's Miss Marion. Whatever. Yeah, just I sincerely recommend, guys. Yeah, Peter Hammill, give him a listen. This song, by the way, this 203 Spectres. It's one of the two songs which I know about the musical industry. The second one is Have a Cigar by Pink Floyd. So where musicians spoke about the music industry and how it makes really the musicians almost like slaves of the industry. So the lyrics are great, you know, really great. In order to write such a song, you as a musician have to be great, because you cannot say, you know, I came to these label guys and they treated me badly. If you're not great as musicians, you other people would say they treated you badly because you are bad, you know. But when you are truly great and nobody can doubt it, then you have the moral right basically to speak about it, because you say, guys, look how they treated me, look how they treat, like he speaks on behalf of all musicians, right? And his voice is heard because he is himself an accomplished musician. It's an amazing song, actually, 203 Spectres. I like it very much. If I would recommend one more, then I would probably another song which is really long. It's from now it escapes my mind what was the name of that song. Okay, whatever. Maybe next time. Maybe I will even record a couple of actually reactions, well, analysis videos for Peter Hammill as such. Okay, for the time being, it was nice talking to you, and just by way of reminder, if you don't like what I'm talking about, it's very easy. Just hit the dislike button. If you were subscribed before, just unsubscribe. By the way, and if you come to YouTube, yeah, and if you see recommendations, like YouTube recommends you something, you can always click here and say, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. And YouTube will recommend it no more. Very easy, like this. Bye for now.